Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a closer look at a specific piece of smart home tech.
hmm
It's designed to give you control over something really fundamental, your heating system, especially if you have an electric boiler.
Yeah, we're diving into the Konlen Wi-Fi thermostat,
Mm-hmm.
specifically that newer model, the
What
KL-T2-T.
called the blue Conlin, right?
That's the one.
Yeah.
And, for someone maybe exploring Wi-Fi thermostats for the first time, well, connecting your heating to a phone app can seem a bit complex.
It can feel daunting, yeah. So our goal here is to unpack the key info from the sources, walk you through how it works, and really focus on the KLT2T's features, especially that app menu.
Exactly. We want you to feel completely confident using it. We're drawing on guides, descriptions, resources like those on gallonshop.eu, which really break it down.
And we'll briefly touch on the older one, the KLWF96D.
Yeah, the dark orange Conlin, just for comparison, really, to highlight the improvements in this newer blue one.
Okay, so let's kick things off. What is a Wi-Fi thermostat like this, fundamentally? Why might you need one?
Well, at its core, it's basically a bridge. It connects your heating or cooling system to your smartphone.
Letting you monitor and control it remotely.
That's the main idea. Think about the key functions. Seeing the temperature in real time, wherever you are.
That's huge.
Turning your system on or off from the app. Automated control based on temperatures you set.
And scheduling too, right?
It's
Alarms.
Scheduled operation.
Hmm?
And temperature alarms if things get too hot or too cold.
Yeah.
Peace of mind is a big factor.
And the sources say these are good for electric boilers specifically.
Yes, that's a very common application. They're designed with that sort of use case in mind.
So for you, the listener, what does it boil down to? I mean, it sounds like convenience is number one.
Definitely. Controlling your heating from anywhere.
Plus, maybe optimizing energy use, aligning with different electricity tariffs.
Potentially, yeah. And that remote monitoring, knowing things are okay at home.
Yeah.
The alerts give you that safety net.
Okay, great advantages. Let's focus now on this specific model, the Konlen KL-T2-T, the blue one.
Right, the updated version. Available since around January 2024.
And the sources mention a key physical difference straight away compared to the older orange one.
Yeah, it's much smaller, more compact.
How much smaller?
The new T2T takes up just 2 DIN rail modules in your electrical box. The old WF96D did 3.
Oh, okay.
It's also shorter and less wide. So when you're fitting it onto a DIN rail with circuit breakers and things, well, space is often tight. This smaller size makes installation easier.
That makes a lot of sense. Easier to slot in. And it still mounts on the standard 35mm DIN rail.
Correct. Standard fitting, pretty straightforward.
All right, so you've got it mounted. Next step is connectivity app and Wi-Fi. What app are we using?
You'll need either the Tuya Smart app or the Smart Life app. They're very similar, really interchangeable, and available for both Android and iOS.
Okay, Tuya Smart or Smart Life. Now, the sources mention the app menu itself is mostly in English. Could that be tricky for some users?
It's something to be aware of, definitely.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's not a problem. That's partly why we're doing this deep dive, right?
Right.
And resources like the guides on gallonshop.eu are specifically made to walk you through that English menu, step by step. Makes it all clear.
Perfect. So let's walk through the pairing process itself. How do you actually get the thermostat connected to your phone and network?
Okay, first step. Physically connect the temperature sensor. There are 2 terminals for it on the device.
Polarity matter, positive, negative.
Nope, doesn't matter. Just connect the 2 sensor wire to the 2 terminals. Simple.
Okay, sensor connected. Now, the sequence for pairing mode.
Right, you need to press and hold the device's left button. Keep holding it.
Okay, holding the left button.
And while you're holding it, connect the device to the 230V power.
So power it on while holding the button.
Exactly. Keep holding it until you see a specific pattern on the little LED display on the device. It's usually like 3 red lines or maybe a spinning animation.
Got it. See the pattern, then what?
Then you can release the button. The device is now in Wi-Fi configuration mode, ready to be found by the app.
Okay, device is ready. Now over to the phone app.
Yep. Open Tuya Smart or Smart Life. Tap to add a new device.
What kind of device do I look for?
It often falls under electrical categories, or sometimes you might find it listed as a socket or outlet type. You might need to look around a bit depending on the app version.
And this is where I connect it to my home Wi-Fi.
Yes, and this is important. It connects only to your 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi network.
Not 5G.
No 5G support. So make sure your phone is connected to the 2.4 gigahertz band during setup. The app will ask for your Wi-Fi password.
Okay, password entered. Then
Then you confirm in the app that the indicator light on the thermostat is blinking rapidly or showing that specific pattern we mentioned.
And the app takes over.
Pretty much. It completes the connection. You might get asked for location permissions, or to enable Bluetooth. Saying yes can sometimes help the app find the device faster.
Good tip. And another practical tip from the sources, rename the device immediately.
Oh, absolutely. Don't leave it as KL-T2 random numbers. Call it living room heater or boiler control. Much easier later, especially if you add more smart devices.
Totally agree. It keeps things manageable. Okay, connected, named. Now let's get into the heart of it. The app menu for the KL-T2-T. What do we see?
So when you open the device in the app, the main screen is pretty clear. Big display of the current temperature. That's your live monitoring.
And I see an indicator for temperature mode.
Yes, it'll show either heating or cooling. Now, here's the clever part. You don't manually pick the mode.
Oh, how does it know?
It figures it out automatically, just based on how you set the switch on temperature and the switch off temperature.
Okay, explain that. If I set the on temperature higher than the off temperature.
If switch on is higher than switch off, say, turn on at 25 degrees C, turn off at 23 degrees C, the thermostat knows you want to cool down, so it displays cooling mode.
Right, and for heating, it's the opposite?
Exactly. Set switch on lower than switch off, like turn on below 20 degrees C, turn off at or above 22 degrees C. It sees that difference and operates in heating mode.
That's quite elegant. You just define the temperature band you want, and it handles the rest.
It simplifies things. You're not flipping modes, just setting your desired range.
Let's talk more about those crucial switch on and switch off settings. These are the core controls.
They absolutely are your main set points, defined exactly when your equipment should activate and deactivate based on temperature.
And this is where the KL-T2-T really shines compared to the older model, according to the sources.
It really is a key improvement. The newer T2T lets you set these temperatures in increments of 0.1 degrees Celsius.
0.1 degrees. And the old one?
The older WF96D was only 0.5 degree steps.
Okay, why is that 0.1 degree precision such a big deal, especially for air temperature?
Well, think about it. For controlling, say, water temperature in a heating pipe, half a degree might be fine. But for the air in a room where you live or work...
Yeah, you'd notice half a degree change.
Exactly. That 0.1 degree step gives you much finer control. You can dial in a much tighter, more stable temperature band. It makes a real difference to comfort. It's much better suited for managing room air temperature precisely.
Okay, that makes the benefit really clear. Now, what about manual control? Can I just override things from the app? Turn the boiler on or off whenever I want?
There is a manual on-off button in the app. But there's a really important catch mentioned in the source material.
Which is?
That manual button only works. You can only use it when the current temperature is between your switch on and switch off set points.
Ah, okay. So if it's really cold, way below my turn on heating temperature, I can't manually force the heater off using that button.
Correct. The thermostat's main job is to maintain the temperature range you set. If the actual temperature is outside that range, the automatic logic takes priority. You can't override that core protective function with the manual button.
Unless I change the set points themselves.
Exactly. You'd have to adjust the set points so the current temperature falls within the new range where manual control is allowed. It prevents you from accidentally disabling heating when it's freezing, for example.
That makes sense from a safety and logic perspective. What else is on that main app screen?
You'll see a sensor status indicator, just a quick visual check that the temperature sensor is plugged in and sending data.
Simple enough. And the alarms, how do those work?
Well, you've got settings for lower limit and upper limit temperatures. These are specifically for the alarm notifications.
So I define a safe range.
Yep. You set a range, say 18 degrees C to 24 degrees, that you consider normal. If the sensor detects the temperature going below your lower limit, 18 degrees C, or above your upper limit, 24 degrees C, the app is designed to send you an alert notification on your phone.
Are the alarms active by default once I set the limits?
No, good question. You have to actually enable the alarm function. There's usually an alarm bell icon in the app interface you need to tap.
Okay, set limits, then tap the bell.
Exactly. And also, don't forget to make sure notifications are allowed for the Tuya or Smart Life app in your actual phone settings. Otherwise, the app can't push the alert to you.
Right, standard app notification permissions. Those limits sound really useful, like for frost protection in a garage or maybe preventing a greenhouse from overheating.
Absolutely. Lots of practical uses.
Okay, let's look beyond the main screen. What other menu features are there?
Well, there's a sensor calibration option.
What's that for?
If you happen to have another accurate thermometer nearby and notice the thermostat's reading is consistently off by a small amount, maybe half a degree, you can use this calibration feature to add or subtract an offset, basically fine-tuning the reading so it matches your reference thermometer. gets it spot on.
Useful for perfectionists. What about delaying the start?
Ah, yes, the delayed start or delayed switch on feature. It's quite practical.
How does it work?
It lets you set a wait time in seconds. So when the temperature hits the point where it should turn on the heating or cooling,
Yeah.
the thermostat waits for the number of seconds you programmed before it actually flips the switch and turns the equipment on.
So if I set a 10-second delay, the temperature hits the trigger point, the thermostat counts 1 to 10, then sends power.
Precisely. It introduces a deliberate pause. The sources suggest this can be useful for certain types of equipment, maybe to prevent very rapid on-off cycling, which could affect longevity.
Interesting. A way to smooth out the operation. Can I see when the system has been running? Is there a log?
Yes, there's a history log. It keeps a record of when the thermostat turned your system on and off.
How's it displayed?
Usually, on times are marked in green, off times in red. You can typically view this history by day, month, or even look back over the year.
Does this log show energy usage, like how many kilowatt hours my boiler used?
No, that's a really important distinction to make. The history log only tracks the thermostat's switching actions.
When it told the boiler to turn on or off?
Exactly. It doesn't measure the actual electricity consumed by the boiler or whatever is connected. For that, you'd need a completely separate energy monitoring device.
Okay, good to be clear on what it does and doesn't show. Now, probably the most powerful automation feature, periods.
Yes, periods, sometimes called time periods or just schedule. This is where you add time-based control into the mix.
How does it work?
You can set up to 10 distinct time periods within a day, numbered 0 to 9. Each period has a specific start time and end time.
Okay, like 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. is period 1, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. is period 2, something like that.
Exactly. Now, how it interacts with the temperature set points is crucial.
Go on.
If you have active periods set up, the thermostat primarily follows those time windows. However, even within an active period, it still obeys your main switch on and switch off temperatures.
Ah, so it's not just turn on at 6 a.m.
No, it's more like heating is allowed to operate based on the temperature set points only between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. The period acts like a gate.
So if it's warm enough during that 6, 8 a.m. period, the heating won't come on even though the period is active.
Correct. Temperature control still rules, but only when the time period gives it permission.
That's a smart way to combine time and temperature control. What about manual override during periods?
The sources indicate that active periods generally take priority over the manual on-off button. Manual control might be limited, although you can usually still manually force it on during an active period, provided the temperature is in that range where manual control is normally allowed.
Okay. Any tips from the sources on setting up these periods effectively?
Yes, definitely. They recommend setting periods sequentially, avoid overlapping them, or creating nested periods with confusing settings, as that can lead to unpredictable behavior.
Keep it simple and sequential?
Pretty much. And if you ever want to go back to just pure temperature control and disable all the time schedules, there's usually a way to reset all periods back to their default 0 values, so it's a clean slate.
That sounds useful if you get tangled up. Okay, one last thing on connectivity. What happens if my Wi-Fi drops out? Does the thermostat just stop working?
Not at all. That's another good point. It retains basic functionality, even completely offline.
How do you control it then? Without the app?
You use the buttons directly on the device itself. Press and hold the right button for about 2 seconds.
The right button this time? Okay.
Yes. Holding the right button gets you into a simple menu on the device's own little display. You can adjust 2 parameters there, P000 and P01.
And P0 and P01 correspond to?
P0 is the start temperature, and P01 is the stop temperature. Same as switch on and switch off in the app.
So the core heating or cooling logic based on those temperature points still works even if the internet is down?
Precisely. It continues to regulate the temperature based on whether PO0 is set lower or higher than PO1. You don't lose basic control just because the Wi-Fi is out.
That's really important for reliability. Okay, we've dug pretty deep into the KL-T2-T now. Let's quickly recap the main advantages it has over the older KL-WF96D based on our sources.
I'd say the 2 biggest practical improvements are, first, the smaller size. Taking up only 2 DIN modules instead of 3 is genuinely helpful for installation.
Yeah, space is always valuable in an electrical panel.
And second, that much finer temperature control step, 0.1 degrees Celsius compared to the old 0.5 degrees.
Which, as we discussed, makes it significantly better for accurately controlling air temperature in rooms. A big plus for comfort.
Absolutely. It really elevates it for that purpose. Now, both models offer the core Wi-Fi stuff, remote monitoring, scheduling with periods, the temperature alarms, But the T2T just refines the package with that better precision and smaller form factor.
And we've established that even though the app menu is in English, understanding what each function does, like we've just walked through, makes it totally manageable.
Exactly. Knowing what delayed start or periods actually means removes any barrier the language might seem to present. Plus, those resources like on gallonshop.eu are there to help.
Right. Okay, just a final but crucial point on safety before we wrap up. We're talking about connecting this to potentially high-power electrical systems.
Extremely important. Yes, it's designed for den and rail mounting, fitting into your electrical setup, but you must understand its switching limits.
What are they?
The internal relay inside the thermostat itself is rated for a maximum of 10 amps if the load is purely resistive, like a simple heating element,
Okay, 10 amps resistive.
but only 2 amps if the load is inductive like an electric motor in a pump or a fan.
Only 2 amps inductive. That's quite a difference.
So 10A resistive is roughly 2,000 watts direct control, but 2A inductive is only around 500 watts for a motor or pump.
So if my electric boiler or circulation pump draws more current than that, connecting it directly to the thermostat is a bad idea.
A very bad idea. You'll likely burn out the thermostat's internal relay. It's just not designed for high currents, especially inductive loads, which has startup surges.
So what's the solution for controlling bigger loads like most boilers?
You absolutely must use an external AC contactor.
A contactor. Explain that.
Think of the contactor as heavy-duty switch. It's built to handle the high current your boiler or pump needs. The thermostat, with its small internal relay, doesn't switch the main power directly. It just sends a low power signal to the contactor, telling it when to turn the main power on or off.
Ah, okay. So the thermostat bosses the contactor around and the contactor does the heavy lifting.
That's a perfect way to put it. The thermostat is the brain, the contactor is the muscle. It protects the thermostat and safely handles the actual load, essential for most boiler installations.
Crucial safety point. Use a contactor for high loads.
Definitely. And some sources also mention for ultimate peace of mind, you could add extra safety layers, like a simple, separate mechanical thermostat wired in parallel, or just a manual override switch as a backup cutoff, completely independent of the smart system.
Belt and braces approach for maximum safety. Good considerations. Wow, we've certainly covered a lot of detail today.
I really have.
So to sum it all up, the Konlen KL-T2-T, the blue one, seems like a really capable and more compact Wi-Fi thermostat. It gives you very granular control over heating or cooling via the app.
Key features being that precise 0.1 degrees C temperature setting, the powerful scheduling using periods, those temperature alarms for monitoring.
And even that basic manual control if your Wi-Fi goes down. Plus the smaller size is a real practical bonus.
And navigating the app, even in English, is straightforward once you understand the function of each item, which hopefully we've helped clarify today. Resources are there to guide you.
Absolutely. So as we finish up this deep dive, here's a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. Think about your own home, your heating setup, maybe even cooling needs.
Yeah, consider how you might use these specific features.
Exactly. How could that 0.1 degree C precision or the period scheduling or maybe those temperature limit alarms be strategically used by you? Could they improve your comfort, give you more peace of mind, perhaps even help manage energy costs, especially if you have time of use electricity rates? What specific scenario comes to mind where this device could simplify or enhance how you manage your home's climate?